Let's take a look at the procedures for the experiment, why do things mix? If you could please turn to the second page in the packet. There are 3 different experiments. The first one I'll do as a demonstration, and then experiment 1 you'll work on yourself back at the lab bench. Part of experiment 2 I'm going to do as a demonstration as well. The reason why I'm doing the demonstration here is because one of the molecules that's being used, butyric acid, that's what gives vomit its smell. And only a drop of it is what it would take to fill up this whole room with the bad smell of vomit. So we don't need that one in the room today. The other one, formaldehyde, I don't want you to use because according to the label, it is a proven carcinogen. That means that it causes cancer. So that's not one that I want to have you work with at the bench either. So I'll demonstrate the procedures and I'll use those as my examples to show you how to do the steps yourself when you go back to the bench. Okay, so looking at the data table, what I did was I set up some test tubes in the same order that the boxes are arranged on the data table. And then it says what to put in each of those test tubes. So into these 3 tubes here, I put some water. And then into these tubes I added the oleic acid. Into these tubes I added butyric acid. And I also added it to this one. And then to this tube and these tubes I added butanol. So look at the above the table, and on the side of the table it tells you what goes in each of those test tubes. And then what you want to do is you want to take a covered finger, I put the part of a glove on my finger, and cover each test tube and shake it up and then let it sit for a while to see if things remain mixed or if they separate into layers. And then we'll record the data to see what happened. So I'll show you the first 3 tubes and we'll see if they form layers or not. Let's move the camera up. Okay, so looking at the first one here we have water and oleic acid, which is the primary component of oil, vegetable oil. Definitely some layers forming, so you could record N for no, they do not mix. The next one, this is butyric acid and water. I see no layers there, so you could record Y for yes, they do mix. And then the third one is, this one is butanol and water. And you can see that there's a line in the middle right there where the 2 layers are separated. Sometimes you have to look really close for it. So clearly these are not mixing. So I would record N for not mixing. Then going down to the next row of data, looking at oleic acid and butanol, no layers, so they mix. And the next one, which was butanol and butyric acid, those 2 mix. There are no layers. And then the last one on the table, which is butyric acid and oleic acid, they're pretty well mixed. I don't see any layers there. So in your data table, how you want to record your data are like this. When they do not mix, we'll record an N for no, they don't mix. When they do mix, we'll record a Y for yes, they do mix. Looking at experiment 2, I'll demonstrate formaldehyde mixing with 4 of the molecules. Formaldehyde causes cancer, so I don't want you using that one. So I set up my test tubes the exact same way that the data table is set up, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And I'm just going to do this row of data for you. I put a few squirts of formaldehyde in each of those tubes, and then I added the other substances as well. And cover with a protected finger and shake it up, and then look to see what happens, if they mix or not. Let's take a look at those tubes and see what happened. So looking at the first one, where formaldehyde and water are mixed, clearly they mix, there are no layers, so I'd record a Y for yes, they mix. And the next one, going down, that was formaldehyde and acetone. There are no layers forming here, so those 2 can mix. I'd record Y for yes, they mix. And the third one down, glycerin and formaldehyde, no layers here. These 2 can mix. And the last one, which is formaldehyde and decane, there's a layer there, so they do not mix. I'd record an N for no, they don't mix. When you work with the other molecules that you'll be doing, watch out for glycerin. Glycerin is a very, very thick and goopy substance, so it doesn't mix very well just because of its goopiness. Make sure when you use this one that you cover the tube with a finger and shake it and shake it and shake it and shake it really a lot, and then give that time to sit so that it can settle if it's going to mix or not. Okay, so go ahead and get yourself to the lab benches. When you're done, you can just dump the contents in the sink and you can throw away the test tubes. We're not going to reuse them.